Coming to you from a lone motel on the back highway. It's the little podcast of horrors with James, Christina, and Chris.
Me. Welcome to Little Podcast of Horrors. I'm Giselle Bündchen.
I'm Archibald Jeremiah J. Rasputin, CCS Choir the Third. Bob.
All right. So, I'm drinking water today. I think everybody else is drinking non-alcoholic beverages as well.
I had a cold
I also am
glass of
drinking
milk.
non-alcoholic water.
Yeah, I had milk.
Alcoholic water.
Non-alcoholic water.
Non-alcoholic water.
Oh, okay. Non-alcoholic. Okay. Yeah. So it's a dry February, I guess, for us today. I have the story today, and this is the story of Laetitia Toureaux. And this is what you guys love, true crime.
Yay!
Oh, but it's a good one. It's a juicy one. It's like an Agatha Christie
I like
novel.
my crime juicy.
I like my crime like I like my strawberries. Hot and juicy, running down the dribbles of my chin.
Oh my gosh. As long as it's not blood. Okay. So, okay, for this story, I got most of my information from an actual book. Okay. I read a book.
Oh, wow. Are you dissonant? Like, unlike some people,
Today's
I read
sponsor is literacy.
Literacy. No,
Today's
Chris
word of the
usually
day is literacy. Chris usually doesn't read jack shit.
No,
You big piece of garbage.
no,
Go on.
that was not meant to be a jab for you, Chris. Usually I'm like, my resources were Wikipedia.
My
and
resources
YouTube.
were.
Or I completely made it up. No, well, yeah, I did make up my Christmas story, didn't I?
My resources are usually what Grandma told me up at the last Thanksgiving feast. She was just telling me what Becky did.
So anyway, I've been reading an actual book. It's called Murder in the Metro, Laetitia Toureaux and the Cajole in 1930s France. And that's by Gail Brunel and Annette Finley Crosswhite. So if you guys want to read this book, it's really good. All right. Ladies and gents, picture it. It's a rainy Sunday evening. It's pretty rainy. Like you need your umbrella. You're not just like hanging out. You'd get soaked. Okay. It's a rainy Sunday evening on May 16th, 1937 in Paris, France. A beautiful young woman named Laetitia Toureaux boards the empty first-class car of the metro at station Porte de Chanton. Less than 60 seconds later, when the metro pulls into the next stop, Porte Toureaux, she is discovered slumped in her seat with a knife in her throat.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. All right. So
That is not the kind of treatment I expect from first class.
oh, hell no. No, that was wrong.
That's a
she got-
refund
yeah.
and a talk with the manager.
Would you like
Yeah.
some assortment cheeses, Domperion, and a knife to the throat?
Yeah. No, not cool. All right. So who was Laetitia Toureaux?
Somebody got
So-
a knife
Funny
in
that
the
got
throat.
killed in first class.
Yes. But she was also a person.
Oh, a twist.
Yeah. So she was born Laetitia Norisa on September 11th, 1907 in Oyas, Italy. So she had two brothers and one sister, all with whom she was pretty close. So they moved with their mother to Lyon, France as children, leaving their father behind. And I'm going to skate right past that because I don't really have much more information than that. They may have gotten a divorce. I'm not sure. So they moved to Lyon for a while, and then the mother relocates them after a breakup with a gent to Paris. Okay. Which, that's kind of where you want to be, especially as an Italian immigrant at the time. There was actually a really large Italian immigrant community in Paris. And at this time in France, the population was still recovering from the First World War. They lost like roughly 10% of their young men in World War I. And then that's not even counting like all the people that were injured and were unable to work. So a lot of immigrants were coming in, but particularly Italian immigrants. And, the French were like, yeah, come on in and work because you guys can do the lesser paying jobs that we don't want to do. Sounds familiar in the United States. Anyway, so Laetitia finds work in a wax polish factory and a dance hall. They were called Bal Musette at the time, where she worked as like a coat check girl. And sometimes she would actually get money for dancing with some of the men that came without dates or just didn't have dance partners. And apparently that was kind of a commonplace way to earn some extra money. Men and women would go to these dance halls and charge like a fee to dance with the men and women there that didn't have dance partners. I thought that was just kind of a neat
hopefully she had time
tidbit
to
for the
get cleaned up
time.
between jobs, because could you imagine like you're covered in all the wax you've been polishing and now you got to go dance with somebody? It's like, that'd be kind of awkward.
And she
And
did
you're getting
actually.
wax all over them.
She did actually. So she'd get off work around 5 or 6, I think, and then get home, clean herself up, and then she'd leave for work around 9 or 9:30. That was like her weekday schedule. Okay. So she didn't smell like wax. Polish.
That is our first burning question. Ayo, answer.
Hey. All right. So Laetitia was known to be a kind, generous woman. She was known for also being really beautiful and having like this really great smile. Like the people that worked at the metro station, she was coming and going all the time. They recognized her and knew her. So they just loved her pretty smile that she would flash. And basically anyone that knew her seemed to only have nice things to say about her. She spent a lot of time at those dance halls, even outside of working. She loved dancing and she was super sociable. Okay. So just like all around kind of a fun gal. So these dance halls, the Bal Musette, they were super fun, but also were known to be pretty seedy as well. So they were frequently associated with like gang activity, prostitution. I think they had drugs coming in and out of there, all the fun stuff that goes along with like organized crime, things like that. So Laetitia was also more than a dance lover. She was an adventurous of sorts. She moonlighted as a spy, a private detective, and a member of a terrorist organization.
So a dancer, a spy, a PI,
Yep.
a terrorist, and a wax polisher.
I say, and don't just
One of these things is not like the others.
And we're going to
Yeah.
have one more that we're going to add too, but
Oh
I'll
my
get to
gosh.
her other association.
I want to know more about the wax polishing.
Of all of those.
of
that
all
is
of
the most
those, tell me more
interesting.
about the wax.
Okay, so on December 21st, 1929, Laetitia marries a fellow lover of the Bal Musette. His name is Jules Toureaux. Okay, so that's where she gets her last name.
So she was a really nice terrorist with a pretty smile.
Right. Yes. So actually we'll get to a little bit more about that group and like her
She incited
participation in
she
it.
incited terror with her beautiful dance moves and her
That's right.
complimentary waxing.
And her
she was a
beautiful teeth.
candle-themed supervillain.
She was a what themed supervillain?
Candle-themed supervillain. With all of her wax.
Here comes wax off. Wax on.
Yes.
Wax off. Wax on.
That was a good nasal sound you just made there.
Yes, it was.
You would speak French. You'd be really good at French.
It's my old nemesis. Wax on. Hello there, Mr. Incredible.
Okay, so she meets this guy, Toureaux. I think they're together a couple of years. They get married in 1929. Well, Jules, the paramour, he comes from a wealthy family. And his marriage with this like lower class immigrant woman was pretty taboo at the time. Like his parents would have shipwrecks, basically. So he kept his marriage to her a secret for
because that's gonna go well.
For 5 years.
This is my secret wife.
Yeah. For 5 years. They didn't know she existed even until he died in 1934 of either tuberculosis or throat cancer. They didn't have anything specific about how he died, but he did die. Sadly, she was madly in love with him, but that is when they found out that he was actually married. And so the family disinherited her, made sure that she didn't get much of anything of his. But Laetitia was, by all accounts, madly in love with him. And actually, when they found her murdered, she was wearing her engagement ring still. So she had worn that ring for many years. And actually, there were a lot of people that knew her that said that she wore black, like mourning dress, for a really long time, like several years after his death. So she had intense grief over losing this love of her life. And they actually believe that's how she gets mixed up in all these different, like the detective work, the spying, the terrorist organization. Like people close to her thought that that was kind of a way of distracting herself from this immense grief that she felt.
But actually, it was all part of the all black, super villainous uniform. But as a cover, she's like, yeah, I'm still in mourning.
That's what the mask is for. Okay. So her associations, we talked about some of them, but let's get a little bit further here. So she was also known to be a police informant.
A very bad terrorist.
Yeah. Well, okay. Relating to the casual, there's kind of some speculation about whether or not she actually joined because she aligned with them in their values, or if she was actually infiltrating
Because she was
the casual. Yeah, because she was spying, but she was also a police informant, and she was working for a private detective agency. The detective agency had actually hired her, or they hired her and then sent her onto assignments. They got her into the wax polish factory to basically spy on the employees for the owner. And they also got her a job at the dance hall where she was a coat check girl, because apparently at that time, those ball musettes were like a pass through for very sensitive mail that you would not want to put through basically the government mail system.
But could you imagine the disappointment? Because you're waiting to get your cover job, and you're expecting some sexy, seedy, underworldy job, and it's like, yes, you're part of your cover is you're gonna be a dancer. Yeah, that sounds cool. And a wax polisher.
Good job. Well, I also wonder if, and the book did not say this, but I wonder if, because those dance halls, even though they were kind of seedier places, they like all sorts of people went there from all different walks of life. So I wonder if she was also kind of doing the dancing bit to get closer to men who would have sensitive information. And she takes on several lovers. And I'm wondering if some of those she actually met through the hall, and became
And
acquainted with them in that way.
Dancing didn't get her there. The wax polishing would.
Yeah, the wax polishing, wink, wink. Okay.
That's always the way to get in. You want a good wax?
Oh man, uncomfortable. Okay, so all right, so she was a police informant. And actually the police were always kind of pretty evasive about like what kinds of information she was providing to them. Like, I guess like they didn't want to be culpable for any, I don't know, didn't want to be anywhere near why she got murdered, right? So like, oh no, she was just sending us like where drugs were. I don't know. So
what? She got murdered? I don't know what happened.
it was, she didn't tell us about an assassination plot that she knew about. Definitely didn't. I don't know.
No idea.
Okay, so next in line, our private detective agency, the Agence Roof. So this dude, Rufignac, was the owner. That's kind of where the name came from. Anyway, we already talked about this though. She got the job at the wax polish factory and the dance hall because of him. Let me see if I have anything new in these. Yeah, let me see if I have anything different to say in my notes here. Okay. So Rufignac, had her in those positions, but I also wanted to make a note about like his statements about her. So he kind of had some conflicting things to say about her and her competency as a detective. So out of the one side of his mouth, he was telling the police and media that she already had like these spy and sleuthing skills. Okay. Long before he met her, like to him, she felt like a professional already by the time she came to his agency. But then on the other side of his mouth, he would say that she had no competency whatsoever as a detective, and her reports were childlike and just dogging her out. So I think that was an attempt to distance himself from her murder as well.
She was the darn best piece of crap detective we had.
Yeah, because after saying that, he also said, yeah, she only got a few assignments because she was so bad. So there's no way that anything I gave her could have gotten her into trouble. All right. Then we have potentially an Italian spy. So Rufignac, the private detective agency owner, said that she seemed like she already had sleuthing skills. Okay.
She was notorious as the wicked wick of the West.
God. Chris's face. So it's actually believed that she was potentially working for the Italian government about like 5 years before she even set foot in the private detective agency. So she was already active doing stuff 5 years before that. Now we come to the terrorist organization. All right. So they're really not sure if she was hired to infiltrate or if she really did align with their values at first. Okay. Because apparently she did have some right-leaning political beliefs. So it's possible that she joined they're called the Casual, sorry. She joined the Casual because she was, aligned with them. So also she had several lovers at the time. One of them was actually a high-ranking member in the Casual. So Gabrielle Jonte. So was she infiltrating or was she sympathetic? kind of up in the air. One of the mysteries of our story here. So if you don't know who the Cajul were, they were a far-right terrorist organization. They did a lot, like committed a lot of sabotage, I don't know, shenanigans, assassinations.
You and your
Them
sabotage
shenanigans. You guys and your terroristic shenanigans. We'll get you sometime, boys and girls. Goodness gracious.
I don't know. They be scheming, okay? They executed a lot of like bombings in Paris, things like that. They actually even had a plot to overthrow the French government and they were going to do that in November of 1937, but they were busted by the cops before they could do that. And then when France was occupied by the Nazis, the Cajul split in two. So some of the Cajul went and worked with the Nazis, for the Nazis, and then some of them went and worked with the Vichy regime, right? In like the free zone or whatever. Okay, so that's just like a super blurb about them. The book that I read, they talk about the Cajul extensively. It really puts her murder in a strong like historical context, and like you get a good idea of what the political climate was at the time, like in line with like what happened to her. Anyway, so let's talk about her last day's activities. Okay. So we said May 16th, right? 1937. It's a Sunday. Her younger brother, Riton, goes by her apartment and drops off a suit that their mother made for her. And it was this apparently really nice green suit. So he said it was like one of the few times that she got out of her black mourning clothes, right? So
her black mourning clothes that for some reason had a candle emblem right on the chest.
No, but she was wearing a distinct pin that people like brought up when the police test, not a wax candle, anything like that. But it was from the Ligue Républicaine de Bien Public. Okay, so it was like the League for Public Good, it was like a prestigious public service organization, basically.
Okay.
So she's a good Samaritan, okay, despite the terroristic activities, potentially. All right.
She's a good person despite all that terrorist stuff.
Okay, so then Riton and Laetitia met up for an aperitif. Oh, she made him leave her house or her apartment so she could get changed. Okay, and then like a little bit later, they meet up for an aperitif. And if listeners don't know what that is, it's just like a little alcoholic taster. Then they go to a beauty salon, and Laetitia has her brown hair dyed blonde. Then they go to their mother's apartment and have lunch. And from there they pick up some friends and they go to a dance hall and just have a good time. Apparently she had made dinner plans with her older brother Virgil and his father-in-law. So they were going to be guests at a banquet for another public service organization. So she leaves the dance hall alone around 6 p.m. She tells her brother that she wants to go and like change before she gets to that dinner and the banquet and everything. So she leaves around 6 p.m. to catch the bus to our fated metro station. And she did have plans at like 10 o'clock to meet someone named Jean. Then as she's leaving, okay, I should have put this before, as she's leaving, as she's leaving the dance hall, she tells a friend that she didn't think the evening was going to go very well. And she even tried to convince one of her female friends to leave the dance hall with her. She didn't want to leave alone. But the friend obviously did not agree to go. She wanted to stay. But Riton says that Laetitia didn't say anything like that to him and that she seemed to be in really good spirits. She was having fun. She didn't seem off at all. This is not the day of activity, but several days before her murder, friends said that Laetitia had been attacked by an unknown man. Okay. And she managed to get away from him. But I don't know, kind of potentially an important piece of the puzzle. There was an attempt to attack her, but like several days before she was murdered.
Attack attempt would be potentially important.
Yeah. Okay. So she arrives at the metro station, boards the empty first class car, like we said. And, there were witnesses because, the metro is pretty busy. So most of the people, though, take the second class car because nobody really had the money for a first class car, typically, except our rich friends. So 2 men tell the police later that they heard a scream, and they were in the second class car. So they say, we heard a scream. And when we got to the next stop, we ran off our second class train, went onto the first class train. And that's where we found Laetitia stabbed in the neck in the first class car. But there is a conflicting statement. So this wealthy dude says that his fiance, and I think it was her brother, board. So there are 2 entrances on the same side, right? Board the front entrance here, and then 3 good time gals board the second entrance when they pull into that second metro stop. So they see Laetitia slumped with her back facing them. So the wealthy guy goes up because he says he has some medical training or whatever. So he goes to check on her, and he sees that she has the knife sticking out of her neck. And then the girl lady starts screaming, and everybody gets off the train car. This wealthy son of a bitch, listen to what he does. He and his fiance and her brother leave. They don't just get off the car. They leave the metro and they go home. They were like, I'm not calling the police. I'm not going to tell them anything. We're going home. Like,
they just wave the white flag.
Just on Audi 5G. I'm not dealing with this. Not dealing with this tonight, guys.
So rude. Okay, but the three other people luckily were on the train. Screamed. One of the girls runs up to the street above and finds a police officer, brings him down, and this dude goes in there. And he pulls the knife out of her neck. She is still alive. He pulls the knife out of her neck, and blood starts.
She was still alive?
Blood was just going everywhere. He asked her who did this to her. She could not respond. She dies en route to the hospital.
I'm actually looking at the crime photo.
I didn't look at the crime photo.
I know. I mean, you don't see her body. It's just the blood. It's just the blood on the floor. The police looking at it. And then, very peculiarly, one of the pictures is the cop like
smiling.
Like he's almost like posing. Like
they knew they were going to get a lot of press for this one. This is a high-profile one. That blood would have been when the officer pulled the knife out of her neck. So I don't know if she would have lived or not, but
I'm not going to lie too. One of the photos is that guy. And then the other photo is that guy and a cop looking down, and they're pointing at it. And all I can think of is, yep, that's blood.
That's blood.
Son of a bitch. It's blood.
Oh, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Confirmed.
This murder just got real.
This just got real.
Oh, this poor woman. Okay. So in roughly 60 seconds, someone managed to board the supposed empty first class car, stab her in the neck, and then disembark on the next stop without anyone noticing. Because nobody at either station said that they saw anyone get onto or get off of the first class car. Get onto just Laetitia, and then get off nobody, obviously. So, a couple of things from the scene that they picked up. Blood, as Chris suggested, confirmed. They did find a fingerprint on the rail behind Laetitia. They did, I say run it. Obviously, I didn't have technology, but like compared it to what they had in their books. Didn't find a match, but even if they had, it was a metro car. So literally anyone could have touched that bar behind her. Also, the knife itself had no fingerprints. So the killer was probably wearing gloves anyway. The knife that was used was apparently a really common knife that was found in two kind of, I'll say big box, not big box compared to now, but big box compared to Paris in the 1930s, discount stores in Paris. But they, of course, didn't.
The Dollar Tree.
Yeah, yeah, basically. But they didn't keep records of those sorts of purchases, and tons of people would have bought this really common knife. So that was a dead end. So since Laetitia had been stabbed in the neck only once, and they actually found it was just done so like swiftly, accurately. It was like even embedded slightly into her spinal column.
I already have this case cracked.
Due to the swiftness, the accuracy, and just being able to get on and off that metro car without people really noticing them, they determined that it was probably a professional, right? Like a professional hit.
Yeah, I know what happened.
James has his theories brewing.
Did you kill her?
I'll tell you at the end.
Was it you? Did you time travel back and take her out?
Oh, not Laetitia.
James.
Occam's razor, man.
Come on.
You're overthinking it. Don't make it more complicated than it already is.
You mean human life is complicated, James? She was somebody. He's like, it's just simple. It's just business.
It's not personal, it's business.
It's not personal. I posted that picture in the chat, by the way, if you want to look at it.
Okay.
It's black and white. You know,
it's not going to be super gory, I guess.
Yeah, it's not. It's black and white, but it's just the dude's face. It's just like, dude, what? You're standing in front of a pool of blood. Why are you smiling?
Okay, let me see this. Let me see this face. Is it going to open? Oh, okay. MacBook Pro or Air. Oh my gosh, he is. He's like pointing down at it, and he has the biggest smile. Like, look what I found.
Look what I found. Pool of blood.
I'm detecting.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to find the killer.
These are your tax dollars at work. See how good I did? Okay, sorry. Back to it. Sorry, I gotta now make this. There we go. Okay. I also wanted to point out, so Laetitia was obviously not a wealthy woman. She worked in that fact. I mean, well, she had a lot of moonlighting gigs, but her main job was at a factory. She was a woman in the 1930s. She wasn't getting paid very much. She was disinherited from her wealthy husband's estate and all that. So she was not a woman of means. So one of the things I was wondering about was why she was in the first class car anyway, in the first place. So her mother did say that typically she took the second class car, but on Sundays, she would take the first class car because she'd be in her Sunday finest. So she'd treat herself to first class car on Sundays. So somebody was pretty aware of her routine. All right. So we got motives for murders here. She had several lovers. So the first thing police thought, outside of, a professional hit, they had to investigate the jealous lover route because she was popular. So she actually was in communication. They found letters with two different military guys. And one of them she had kind of been seeing for a while. It was Renee Schramm. But so she had at least two military lovers. They had alibis because the military said that they actually they wanted to one of them wanted to meet with her. Jean wanted to meet with her, but he didn't get permission to leave. So he was actually still like on base, or whatever the French would have called it. And so was the other guy. So the day of the murder, both of them, they were not even allowed to leave where they were. So that was quickly struck. But Renee, one of the military beaus, said that she was actually wanting out of her association with the Cajul and the Italian government. So it's possible, like, if she was aligned with them at some point, now, like, by the time it was coming to her death, she was having a change of heart and didn't really want to be doing that anymore. So according to some of her friends, Laetitia was actually afraid of a different lover, a powerful, wealthy lover that she was seeing, but they didn't know the name of this person. But they said that she was afraid of this person hurting her, and actually even went and sought out a psychic for advice. And if you want to know what the psychic said, she said, I'm assuming they said, to use black magic to get rid of her lover. Very specific. Very specific. Not at all specific, but okay. And then, so we have at least two powerful lover opportunities. Gabrielle Janté, which I mentioned before, was a high-ranking member of the Cajul. And then I didn't even write this person's full name down, Chano, but I believe they were associated with the Italian government. So, second possible motive, the Cajul maybe it was a Cajul assassination, right? She's involved with this terrorist organization. She was a police informant. So this is a possibility, right? So one thought is that Laetitia was on her way to meet the police that night, to alert them to an assassination plot against the Rosselli brothers. And if you don't know who they were anti-fascist activists. And Carlo, at least, was a political leader. So the Cajul had planned to get rid of them. So the thought was she could have been meeting with one of her handlers, her police handlers, to tell them about this assassination plot, or that she had even let them know that, or she was on her way to let them know that about their smuggling arms ring they had going on. So there were a couple things she knew about the Cajul that, could have been big enough to get her murdered. And obviously we think it's a professional, or they thought it was a professional job, right? And the Cajul, carried out many assassinations. One of their most popular assassin, Joseph Filiol, they kind of pegged him for the murder for a while. But they didn't really get any good proof that it was definitely him. But he also was not known to be very neat about his assassinations, or even trying to be anonymous about the people he was killing. So like one guy he killed, I didn't even pick up the name of the person. He actually killed in a park and stabbed him just a whole bunch of times. So it was a really brutal, gory crime scene, and even shot the dude's little dog for good measure, just because, before he left. So he was not known for like being a swift, efficient,
take that, Fifi,
assassin.
He was just a dick.
Yeah, he was a major dick.
What a douche. I mean,
we don't mean private investigator.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, so really bad dude, but he was lame. He didn't do it. The job was too clean, right? So let's pass him by. So the Italian government possibly did it, right? So she was working for the Italian government for at least 5 years before she got involved with the private detective agency. So she had been with them for a while. And I feel like like a Secret Service kind of hit would be more in line with the anonymity, the efficiency with which they did it.
That is where the assassins are based out of. I mean, you have Ezio, who was a famous assassin, and as known through the Assassin's Creed series, based in Italy.
God, James!
Entire Assassin's Order.
There was a video game. This is reality. What are you doing?
So, okay. And so if Laetitia wanted to cut ties with both the Cajole and the Italian government, then they think she might have been like upping the amount of information she was feeding to her French police like handlers, because they would have been her only possibility for protection. And I use air quotes when I say that, because it seems like a police force isn't going to do much against, Secret Service or even a terrorist organization,
or Italian assassins in white hoods.
Or that even, yes. But that would have been her best bet. So, if you're trying to get away from it, working with the police. Okay. And then Gabriel Janté, her Cajole lover, right? He stated that it was most likely the Italian Secret Service because they had some score to settle with her, but he was very vague about it. But he seemed to think that she was not on good terms with the Italian Secret Service by that point. And then it's plausible that the Italians were tipped off by the Cajole themselves about her dealings with the French police, and so they would have wanted to dispose of her. So the Cajole doesn't directly work for the Italian government, but they're working for the fascist agenda. So they were associated with each other, and they might have been informed, by someone in the Cajole. And they would not have wanted her to tell that they were plotting the Rosselli brothers' assassination, because the Italian government was in on that one with the Cajole. So once the Nazis invaded France and occupied like Paris and a lot of France, the investigation into Laetitia Toureaux's murder was dropped and has remained unsolved.
Anything.
Oh, and my notes abruptly end. So what do you guys think?
So all these scenarios are way overthinking it. I already have this figured out. Mm-hmm. 2 theories.
Here we go.
Each one plainly obvious to see.
Goes plainly. Plainly.
Theory number 1.
And
this is probably what actually happened. So picture it, if you will. A month later, there's been a string of killings, all members of the Cajole. And this time, the detectives, and his team are investigating the latest body. As usual, there's almost no clues to be found except for one. The killer has left a calling card, a note to the detective. And when he opens the note, all he sees is an emblem of a candle. And then a call comes in. It's the medical examiner. You're going to want to hear this, chief, or le chief. It's le medical examiner. It's on the phone, and it's like, we just came back with the autopsy results, and it turns out the body was a wax sculpture.
This was the simplest conclusion.
That's dear God, man. Oh my gosh.
Theory number 2.
Oh no, I'm scared of what this is gonna be.
Ninjas.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Yeah. Well,
that was
that's
it.
My story.
Oh, was that it? It was just ninjas. Okay.
Yeah,
ninjas.
that's his second theory.
All right. So I have a somewhat serious. I was reading as you're telling the story too. I was like, you really piqued my interest with this. They were like, nobody had, like, she was fine at the first stop and then dead by the second. Yes. Nobody saw anybody leaving the port door, running away, nothing. Mm-hmm. Like, she's just murdered by a ghost. Like, and it's a common knife. So 2 things crossed my mind. One, if this is somebody, if to get that close to somebody, most people are going to assassinate you from afar, from shooting you. To get in that intense, like they always talk about, like when they strangle you or they stab you, like that seems like they're trying to send a message. That was a very public murder. Like that's not.
It could have been a message.
Yeah, that's not quiet. Like to murder a woman in the first class car. But here's the second thought. Has anybody contemplated the idea that she did it to herself?
There were no fingerprints on the knife.
Yeah, there's no thing. Yeah, that's what it said. So, but like,
so she would have been like, stab myself in the neck and then wipe the fingerprints off, or take my gloves off after I stabbed myself.
No. So it was a wax sculpture, and the reason the knife didn't have fingerprints is because her fingers were coated in wax.
Nailed it. Well, okay, Chris, what were you trying to say?
Well, I was going to ask, like, was she wearing gloves? You know, like, do we know what she had on? You know,
actually, that's a great question.
She was coming from a dance. She might have had gloves on. That's a very common style. So think about it. But like, there's nobody. Why would she do it? To make
just to get away from them,
or maybe to make people think it was them. Maybe to bring them down. Maybe to find some way. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Here's what I think. I think it was probably like the Italian Secret Service, but I don't think that no one got off or no one got on that first class car other than her. I think, especially the getting off part. So when that train stops, they could just casually walk out. People would not really notice.
That is also true.
They would have noticed someone running, but a professional would have known that he can't just run off the train and not be seen. He could have just slipped right out very casually, and no one noticed until they got onto the train and found her.
Yeah.
I mean that's highly likely.
Then you're right. In the sense of my first thought was, that's a very public, that's a professional doing that. They're right. I think that's somebody who knew exactly what they were doing.
And I think you're onto something with like sending a message, right? Because there was a very large Italian immigrant community in Paris, and there were lots of working spies for them. And also they were just generally trying to keep their eyes on any Italian immigrants. The Secret Service was. So they could have been sending a message to some of their other spies, like, don't fuck around. You fuck around, you find out.
You're clearly could not be Italian assassins. I mean, there was no traces of pasta whatsoever. This is clearly the work.
I would like to apologize for my friend here. To any Italians listening to this podcast, he does not represent us. That's just wrong. James.
It was ninja.
It might have been ninja. It was somebody like a ninja, apparently. I mean, they killed her quietly, fast, and disappeared. So, James, even though you tried to be silly, you were actually not wrong, probably, in that sense.
Say I was being silly. I said it was obvious.
You're silly. You're such a silly man.
So I hope you like that one. That one felt like an Agatha Christie novel to me, and I want my mom to listen to this one.
Dude, I feel like we could write a really good little, like a fictional based off of that event story.
Yeah, I mean, I just gave you the ending.
You did.
Wax doll.
Actually, the thing is, you did give me a look. That is actually not a bad idea.
I opened a segue to a sequel for bonus points.
I'm saying that's not a bad idea to use, like, that's wax to cover their fingerprints or something.
That is smart. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but the book is really good. There's a lot more, like, if you like history, there's a lot more historical, like, information for that World War II political climate in France and all that brewing. And so there's a lot more about the cajole and what the Italian government were up to. Like, it's really good.
I think the takeaway from this is that no matter how many skills you have and how many jobs you hold, eventually your wick just runs out.
And that's our show. Our wick has run out.
I don't have words.
But, well, I liked reading about Laetitia Toureaux, and I wish there were like more information about her because she sounds like quite an interesting
man.
person. Very complex.
By the way, I posted a clearer picture of that same one in the chat, like really clear. And yes, he is very much grinning and pointing down.
Yeah, it's very weird. You know what, from this car too, I wonder if the killer got onto the first class car, maybe at the metro stop before, and then kind of hid. Because you know how there's the little window cut out, so if you're standing or sitting, people can see you. But if he's like crouched down low enough, there's a wall that could cover him.
I just love the face. I'm detecting.
Yeah, he is. He's like, hey, look, I found something. Look at this. I think it's blood.
Notice there's no body in the picture.
Well, no, she was.
No.
They took her from the hospital.
Wax body.
No
No,
wax.
God.
Christine, I think you're right though. Like that seems really plausible. Like whoever probably did this was already on the train.
Mhm.
They slipped in, or even better, I'd say, but even more so, like they slipped in right as she got on the train. They took off, killed her, well, mortally wounded her, then slipped back. He could have just slipped back into hiding, like wherever they were to begin with. They didn't ever leave the train till later on.
Like
A ninja.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the
You're
thing
all
about
right.
the thing about her getting onto the train, the reason why I think that they were probably already there and like maybe crouched down is because the metro that at that station, all the workers knew her, and they like people that knew her saw her get onto the train. I feel like they also would have noticed, because they noticed her, they might have noticed
Somebody
another
else.
person getting on as well.
Yeah,
with
I
her.
think you're right. I think whoever it was, they were already there.
Well, if you like this show, please like, follow, leave a review.
Yeah. If you're
a descendant of the waxer,
Oh my God.
wax off. Wow. Email us at littlepodcastofhorrors little podcast of horrors
Little podcast horrors.
littlepodcasthorrors@gmail.com.
we know our own email address. Shut up. Okay?
You shut up. I don't know.
I'm talking to our audience.
Oh yeah. That was man, I want to know more. Yeah, I want to know more about this. Like,
It's good stuff.
that was
Yeah, read that book.
What was the name of the book again?
Murder in the Metro, Laetitia Toureaux and the Cajole in 1930s France. I'll send you the title and the author.
Yes, thank you. All righty. Well,
Really good. Also, we have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, and I'm going to go ahead, even though we haven't posted anything on it, say that we have a YouTube channel. What else do we have now? A website, littlepodcastofhorrors.com. What am I missing?
We have phone numbers, but you can't have those.
no, you can't.
We also take donations.
We do.
I'm just like, everything. What are we doing here?
Yeah, we're looking into setting up a Patreon as well, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So the episode after, we are definitely 100% doing it. But the episode after this is our season finale.
Yes.
And then we're going to take a little break. We have not determined, I don't think officially the time, but the length of time.
It'll be long.
It
But
will be
we
long.
are going to be,
keep your shirt on, okay?
we are
It's
going
not
to
gonna be long. We're coming back. Just deal with it.
We are going to be brewing ideas though for a Patreon. So if you guys have brilliant ideas, please send them to us. Like things you want to see, things like that.
And if they're not brilliant, don't bother.
No, just send us all your shit.
Just send it
let
all.
us know. Just let us know.
We'll have James go through it. So anyway,
I'll
Other
go
than
through
that-
it all right.
other than that, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.